Imagine this. You're in an old house in Fall River, Massachusetts. Outside, the sun hangs heavy in the sky. It's a hot, stifling summer day in August of 1892. Inside, thick curtains hang motionless over the windows. The air shimmers with heat, yet there's a strange chill lingering in the house. It's quiet, unusually quiet. Then, a scream. Not from outside, not from a neighbor, from inside the house. Lizzie Borden, her voice pierces through the halls. "Maggie, come quickly! Father is dead. Someone came in and killed him." Maggie, the maid, rushes in. She stands frozen in the living room. On the sofa lies Andrew Borden, lifeless, drenched in blood. His face is mutilated beyond recognition. One eye has been cleanly split open. The sight is so horrific that Maggie instinctively steps back. No one knows yet. This is only the beginning. Maggie is in shock. She trembles, barely able to speak, but Lizzie remains eerily calm. In a steady voice, she calls out to the neighbor, Mrs. Churchill. "Please, get Dr. Bowen, quickly. Someone has killed Andrew Borden." Mrs. Churchill rushes off. Other neighbors gather by the fence, peeking through the windows. In the sweltering heat, more and more people gather outside the house, whispering, gesturing, unaware of the horror inside. Someone rushes to the police station. Soon after, the first officers enter the house on 2nd Street. What they find in the living room leaves them stunned, but it's Maggie who offers the next vital clue. Mrs. Borden, she was upstairs earlier. She said she wanted to make up the guest room. An officer turns to Lizzie. She only nods. And so, they begin to climb the creaking staircase. Upstairs, the door to the guest room creaks open, and there she lies, Abby Borden, face down on the floor, her hair clotted with blood, the carpet beneath her soaked, dark as night. 18 savage wounds mark her back. Her body is cold. To truly understand what happened on that fateful day, we must look further back into the life of a family that, on the surface, seemed to embody prosperity, but behind closed doors was tangled in coldness, control, and silent resentment. Lizzie Andrew Borden was born on July 19, 1860, in Fall River, Massachusetts, a storied industrial town shaped by the rise of the textile trade and the growing dominance of wealthy families like the Bordens. Her father, Andrew Jackson Borden, was a self-made man, stern, ambitious, and relentless. From modest beginnings, he built a considerable fortune. Yet despite his wealth, he kept his family in conditions that bordered on the austere. The house on 2nd Street was functional but modest. No running water, no bathroom, no staff, even though the family could easily afford it. Andrew Borden was known for his frugality, or as some would say, for his stinginess. After the early death of Lizzie's mother Sarah, Andrew remarried to Abby Durfee Gray. Lizzie was about 5 years old at the time. From the beginning, her relationship with the new woman in the house was cold. She never called her mother, only Mrs. Borden. Between them stood an invisible wall of rejection and distrust. Lizzie lived under the same roof as her 9 years older sister Emma, her father, her stepmother, and the maid, Bridget Sullivan, whom she affectionately called Maggie. Emma was quiet and reserved, but deeply loyal, especially to her younger sister. Between them lay a deep, unspoken bond. Yet the house they lived in offered no comfort. It was a place of control, of silent tension that lingered in every room. Despite the closeness and tension within the household, Lizzie remained socially active. Still, Lizzie sought life beyond its walls. She was active in her community, joining church groups, teaching Sunday school, attending charity events. To the outside world, she was the picture of virtue, educated, dependable, and gracious. But in the darker corners of Fall River, some whispered, Lizzie was moody, proud, manipulative, and when you crossed her, her gaze could turn ice cold. In the weeks before the murder, tensions inside the Borden household escalated sharply. Lizzie and her sister were outraged when their father signed over a valuable property to Abby's family, a gesture they saw as blatant favoritism, a betrayal. Communication broke down. The sisters barely spoke to their stepmother, and even with their father, things had grown tense and distant. Then, just days before August 4th, an unsettling incident occurred. Everyone in the house suddenly fell ill with violent stomach pains. Abby, unsettled, wondered aloud if someone had tried to poison them. Andrew brushed it off as mere coincidence. But maybe it was more than that. The morning of August 4th began, seemingly, like any other. 5 people gathered around the breakfast table. Andrew Borden, his wife Abby, his daughter Lizzie, the maid Bridget Sullivan, and a rare guest, John Morse, the brother of Lizzie's late mother. He had arrived the night before to discuss business matters with Andrew. The fact that he happened to spend the night in the house would later become a crucial detail. The breakfast was simple, the mood subdued. Everyone was still suffering from the stomach troubles that had plagued them for the past 2 days. Abby had quietly wondered if someone might have poisoned the food. Andrew, as always, brushed the thought aside. Around 9 a.m., John Morse took his leave. He exited through the front door and would later have a rock-solid alibi for the rest of the day. Shortly afterward, Abby went upstairs to tidy the guest room where Morse had spent the night. It was the last time she was seen alive. Emma, Lizzie's sister, was already away by then. She had left the house to visit friends in the countryside. Lizzie was now alone in the house with her stepmother and Bridget. The air inside was stifling. Not just from the summer heat, but from something unspoken. Resentment, suspicion, something heavy and unresolved. Around 10:30 a.m., Andrew returned from his morning walk. He struggled with the front door. The lock had jammed. Bridget, weary from the heat and the endless chores, reluctantly let him in. And then, in that moment, she heard it. A faint sound, a soft laugh. From upstairs, Lizzie. But Abby was already dead by then. Unaware of the horror that had already unfolded, Andrew lay down on the sofa in the sitting room to rest, as he often did. He never got up again. Moments later, he too was killed. With savage force, someone brought a sharp, heavy weapon down on his face. One eye was split open, his skull crushed, struck at least 11 times. He never had a chance. He had been asleep. The first blow likely came while he was still lost in dreams. Then, silence. Until Lizzie suddenly called out, "Maggie! Come quick! Father's dead! Someone came in and killed him!" Bridget ran down the stairs and stopped cold. Andrew Borden lay motionless, drenched in blood. His face so brutally disfigured she staggered back in horror. As neighbors gathered outside in growing numbers, a second body was found. Abby, in the guest room she had gone to prepare. She lay face down on the floor, her face shattered, her hair soaked with blood. 18 blows had rained down on her. The first likely struck her head on, the rest while she was already lying on the ground. A double murder. Savage, senseless. And yet, nothing in the house had been stolen. Only minutes after Lizzie's cry for help, the police arrived. Officers from the Fall River Police Department stepped into the house and immediately sensed something was off. It wasn't just the crime scene that disturbed them. It was her, Lizzie, the only one home, and far too composed. No tears, no trembling hands, no trace of panic. She told them she'd heard a strange noise, a dull thud, and found her father lying dead in the sitting room. But only moments later, her story shifted. Now she claimed she hadn't heard anything. She'd been out back, in the barn, looking for scrap iron. The officers searched the barn. Dust covered the floor, undisturbed and thick. Every step they took left clear footprints, but not a single one belonged to Lizzie. So what had she really been doing? In the basement, they made another discovery. 2 axes, 2 hatchets, and 1 axe head, stripped of its handle. Curiously, a thin layer of ash coated the blade, as if someone had tried to hide it, mask it. Was this the murder weapon? No one could ever say for certain. There were no DNA tests back then. No blood analysis, only speculation, and a growing storm of questions. Then, just days after the double murder, something happened. Something that, to many, felt like an unspoken confession. A friend of the family, Alice Russell, later testified that she saw Lizzie in the kitchen, tossing a dress into the fire. Lizzie claimed it was stained with paint and no longer usable. But in the minds of the investigators, a more sinister possibility took hold. What if that was the dress she had worn on the day of the murders, marked with blood, damning in its silence? If so, the evidence was gone, forever. And it wasn't the only strange thing that surfaced. A pharmacist came forward. He told police that the day before the murders, Lizzie had entered his shop. She had tried to buy prussic acid, cyanide, claiming it was for cleaning a fur coat. He refused. Cyanide had no legitimate use as a cleaning agent. Was she truly planning to poison someone and lost her nerve at the last moment? The investigation grew more intense. Suspicion tightened around her. And on August 11th, 1892, just 1 week after the murders, Lizzie Borden was formally arrested. At her first hearing, Lizzie seemed unsettled, unfocused, as if watching everything from a distance. It was later revealed that she had been under the influence of morphine, prescribed to calm her. But the drug clouded her mind. Her statements were inconsistent, her demeanor vague and evasive. A police officer would later testify that, on the night of the murders, he saw Lizzie standing over the kitchen sink, alone, in the half-light, as if cleaning something. And Alice Russell recalled this too. That night, Lizzie had taken a lamp and a bucket and gone down into the basement. What she did there remains a mystery. The trial of Lizzie Borden began on June 5, 1893. But it wasn't just a trial. It was a national sensation. Across America, people hung on every detail, every testimony, every glance exchanged in the courtroom. The thought that a woman, and not just any woman, but one from a well-regarded family, could commit such a brutal act was almost beyond comprehension. And so the prosecution found itself facing a quiet but powerful dilemma. There were suspicions, clues, circumstantial signs, but no solid proof, no witnesses, no blood-stained clothing, no murder weapon that could be definitively linked to the crime. Just an axe head without a handle, found in the basement, covered in a fine layer of ash. Suspicious, yes, but not enough. And the motive? Vague at best. There were family tensions, certainly, but nothing prosecutors could present as a clear reason to kill. No letter, no threat, no confession, only shadows, only theories. And then there was John Morse, Lizzie's uncle. He had spent the night in the house, claimed he left early that morning. His alibi was remarkably precise, almost too precise, but no serious suspicion ever fell on him. There was one moment in the courtroom no one would forget. When the skulls of Andrew and Abby Borden, crushed, split, silent testaments to the violence, were presented as evidence, Lizzie went pale. She staggered, then collapsed. Was it horror, guilt, or something else entirely? A performance? The defense crafted a careful image of Lizzie, the very opposite of a murderer. Respectable, devout, active in the church, in women's clubs, in charity work. A Sunday school teacher. Could someone like that really be capable of such a crime? Emma, her sister, stood firmly by her side. In her testimony, she described the relationship between Lizzie and their stepmother as mostly cordial. There had been tensions, particularly when their father signed over the home of Lizzie's late mother to Abby and her sister. But Emma insisted it hadn't caused any deep or lasting divide. And the public? They were split. Some saw Lizzie as the victim of a grave injustice. Others saw only the performance, and believed that behind the mask of innocence was a cold and calculated mind. In the end, the jury faced a single question: doubt or conviction. On June 20th, 1893, the verdict was announced. After just 90 minutes of deliberation, the jury delivered its decision: not guilty. Lizzie Borden was free. No murder weapon, no confession, no direct witnesses. Only a chain of circumstantial evidence, fragile, incomplete, too uncertain for a sentence of death. Lizzie wept as the verdict was read. The public, however, remained doubtful. She may have been acquitted, but her name was never cleared. To many, Lizzie Borden wasn't found innocent. She simply escaped justice, and the rumors never faded. Was she truly the killer? Or was she protecting someone? Perhaps Bridget, the maid who kept to the shadows. Did she suffer a blackout? A psychological break? Some speculated that years of abuse at the hands of her father may have driven her to the edge, a theory never proven, but never forgotten. Others believed she didn't act alone, or that she was completely innocent. What remains is a riddle without an answer. After the trial, the Borden sisters tried to start over. They moved into a grand new home in Fall River's wealthiest neighborhood. Its name was Maplecroft. Spacious, elegant, quietly imposing. A subtle display of wealth, dignity, and perhaps quiet defiance. Lizzie took on a new name, Lisbeth, a fresh identity for a new life. But the past had moved in with her, and its shadows never left. In 1905, 12 years after the trial, something unexpected happened. Emma packed her belongings and left. No warning, no explanation, no farewell, not a single word. What had changed? Some believed she could no longer bear Lizzie's growing closeness to a young actress, Nance O'Neill, a woman with whom Lizzie spent an unusual amount of time. Others suspect something more unsettling, that Emma had begun to question, that she saw something, learned something she could no longer ignore. Emma never said a word. Until the day she died, she remained silent about the murders. No confession, no letter, no clue. After her split from Emma, Lizzie lived alone at Maplecroft. The grand house became her refuge and her cage. She remained wealthy, supported animal charities, donated to theaters, moved in artistic circles. But society kept its distance. She was a woman marked by her past, and a story that entered every room before she did. People said she was often lonely, that she never stepped outside without a hat and veil, as if trying to shield herself from judgment, from whispers, from the weight of knowing eyes. The rumors never stopped. Whispers of forbidden affairs, family secrets, fractured minds. And Lizzie? She never answered them. Not once did she speak publicly of what happened. Not ever. On June 1st, 1927, Lizzie Borden died of pneumonia. A few days later, as if fate had waited, Emma followed. The sisters, bound together in life by love, silence, and shadow, left this world in the same week, and took their final secret with them. But the story of Lizzie Borden did not die. She became a fixture of American folklore, immortalized in novels, plays, films, series, and songs. Even the old Borden house became a museum, a dark shrine for those who can't resist the pull of the unsolved. And a grim little rhyme sealed her place in legend.
Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41.
The rhyme exaggerates. The numbers don't add up. To this day, no one truly knows what really happened. What once filled front pages still stirs our imagination and our doubt. What do you think? Was Lizzie Borden a ruthless murderer, or the product of a patriarchal system that couldn't accept a woman as either victim or villain? Share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, sometimes it's not the answers that stay with us, but the questions that refuse to fade.